Reports from Syria are unimaginably barbaric. Bodies in the streets, houses set on fire, systematic executions.
Well, the situation in Syria is really heating up. Some very disturbing headlines coming out of that region. There are reports that hundreds of people have been killed along Syria's Mediterranean coast. What is going on? What do you know?
Well, first of all, it's almost certainly in the thousands by now. There's a list circulating of 717 names of Alawite Muslim civilians who were killed in the last few days, and that list was circulated on Saturday. It's now Monday, and the killings haven't stopped as far as we can tell.
While in Syria, human rights groups accuse the new regime of a massacre against civilians. More than 1,000 people have been killed in recent days. Julie Stahl has that story.
The new Islamist government in Syria says its brutal crackdown on the Alawite community is a response to a rising rebellion of supporters of the deposed Assad regime. They claim those rebels carried out attacks against forces of the new government last week.
We will not tolerate the remnants of Assad who have committed crimes against our army forces and state institutions.
But others say the Sunni forces of President al-Shara, also known as Julani, massacred the Alawites. The British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said on Saturday more than 1,000 people, mostly Alawite civilians, had been killed. Charmaine Heading of the Shai Fund has been helping refugees and persecuted Christians in the Middle East for years. She says people on the ground tell her the numbers are higher.
We're hearing reports of 2,000 to 3,000, and it's increasing every couple of hours. And we're seeing images and speaking to people on the ground that are just saying the bodies are piled up in the streets.
In a statement, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio condemned what he called radical Islamist terrorists who murdered people in recent days, saying the U.S. stands with ethnic minorities, including Christian, Druze, Alawite, and Kurdish communities.
It is reported that many different Christians are being slaughtered in Syria right now. Not only Christians, but many civilians, right? You got different extremists that are being told to take out everybody who's an infidel. And an infidel means a non-believer, okay? And it's pretty wild right now out there. This may even be a little too much to show even on YouTube. They're asking me to pray for the Christians out there because they were going through persecution. You know, it was around December, and it was different extremists just taking over their churches. Then we just seen a thing in Congo. Even before that, Nigeria. I mean, it's sad, guys, you know. In recent times, the Syrian Christian community has faced numerous challenges, including ongoing and severe persecution, displacement, and immigration. Christians in Syria made up about 10% of the pre-war Syrian population, but now make up less than 2%, falling from 1.5 million in 2011 to just 300,000 in 2022 due to the impact of the Syrian civil war, meaning different extremists taking the lives of civilians.
One of the most scariest biblical prophecies has now officially begun. This prophecy was something that not just the Christians, but the entire world in general, because this now officially proves that we are living in the end times. It seems like Christians around the world are now being executed for following Jesus. Now, there's been so many different types of prosecution that has happened so far in our history, but for the very first time, it seems like it's happening in such a mass scale. On March 7, 2025, 1,000 Christians were officially killed in Syria, and it seems like the media is literally not covering about the stuff that's happening in the world. And the reason why the mainstream media is not covering about this stuff is because they are being controlled by the guy named Antichrist, the guy who's supposed to be taking over the world, where there will be this one guy who's been controlling the organization called the Illuminati and the Hollywood and the entire media industry, where they do or say exactly what was told to them. And the Bible already warns us that during the end times, the one guy who's going to be controlling the entire world, and he's also going to be the one guy who's going to help Israel in order to build that third temple by destroying the Mosque of Al-Aqsa, which is located in Jerusalem. And once this temple gets built, that's when the Antichrist is supposed to be taking over this world. There will be no government, and it's just going to be one leader that's going to rule the entire world, and he's basically going to call himself the God. Just take a look at what's actually happening around the world.
In Syria has just taken a giant, drastic turn in the last 24 hours as we approach this blood moon. I believe all things are related. What started as a civil situation has literally turned into search and destroy of all Christians, children, wives, anything.
It seems like people are going inside houses searching for Christians in particular, and they are beheading these guys. They're literally executing them by making them kneel down. Like, just imagine your father or your husband or any male from your house is actually being dragged out of the house forcefully, and they're being kneeled down and their heads are being cut off. That's the kind of persecution that's currently going on in Syria, and they have already killed over 1,000 people in just 2 days. I don't think there's ever been such a massive persecution ever in the history so far, and it basically means that we are heading towards the end times before the second coming of Christ, because this was already mentioned in the Bible.
People in Syria right now are risking being unalive to bring this news to you, and hoping that you will share this news and that you will speak up yourself.
Covering my face now because I don't want anyone to see my face, because if they see me, they will tell me I'm from Syria. I live now in the city of Latakia. Please, please, please. The media is not showing you anything. The terrorists are killing everyone, children, women, teenagers, old people. Just kill. There is more than 100 bodies in my... There is more than 100 bodies in my village now. Even in the city, they are just taking the children and the women and kill them. I don't know what to do with my mom and my 2 sisters. Please, you gotta help us. Nobody's talking anything about it. Not the social media or the TV.
Now, literally, it seems like none of the mainstream media is covering this stuff. Now, just take a look at the situation that's currently going on in Syria, and there are people begging the world in order to share this information, hoping that if they share this, some or the other country might come out and rescue them. And obviously, since the media is controlled by Antichrist, he's making sure that this stuff doesn't get published out there in the mainstream media. But I'm very grateful for all the creators out there that are definitely covering these information, because if all the guys that are watching this video, if you guys do like the video, comment and share, what happens is that YouTube's algorithm, it pushes out videos like these to more people, so that more people get to watch these videos and share these videos on different social medias. And when they do that, it's going to reach many people, and eventually it reaches someone or some leader around the world that's powerful enough to go ahead and save these people from their misery. It seems like there are women and children that are being dragged out of the house, and look at these people.
Meanwhile, they are being quite literally crucified. I've seen very dark videos of what's happening to children. Of course, I won't share them here, but the same thing's happening to the women, to the guys, to all of them. Even with this horrific event that reminds me of the Armenian G word, the Bible talks about the celestial events being the times and seasons. We do know this stuff has been happening over there for a long time, but there's been a shift. And we really need to make people aware, and we really need to share their story so the world knows what's happening.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this stuff, but there is a massive celestial event that's going to be happening from March 13th to 14th, which is something that was already described in the Bible as a sign before the second coming of Jesus Christ, where it seems like the moon is going to turn into complete blood red color, and it's going to be called as the blood red moon, which is going to be rising, which will happen on 13th March to 14th March. These are the 2 days in which you're going to be witnessing this blood red moon, and this is supposed to be some sort of a lunar eclipse of the decade, and it seems like the entire world is going to be able to witness this stuff happening live. Watch this video early to go ahead and check out the moon, and if you watch this video later, then you can obviously go ahead on YouTube and look at this blood red colored moon phenomenon that just took place on March 13th. Just take a look at these videos. These are the things that are currently happening in Syria right now. Damn, Syrian Christians are showing unbelievable courage by raising their crosses despite persecution. And now they're being slaughtered. Oh my God. Dude, I'm literally getting goosebumps watching this video. It seems like people are protesting against the prosecution. That's crazy, man. That takes a lot of courage. I've got to be honest. That takes like hell lot of courage right here in order to do something like this, where, you know, a group of people are taking stand against these terrorists that are like persecuting, executing their families. And it seems like everybody that was part of this parade were already probably killed, and their families were like dragged out of the house and they were already beheaded, because they killed over 1,000 people in just 2 days, and that's just absolutely nuts. And just look at how these people are requesting the world in order to spread these videos so that they can get some sort of a help. This woman right here, my family, my mom, my uncles, my friends, my town, my neighbors. I'm worried about everyone. Heartbreaking. These are innocent people. For God's sake, these are innocent people. Man, there is some crazy stuff going on in the world. I really wanted to go ahead and cover these videos, especially because, you know, nobody in the mainstream media is covering this stuff. And I think these messages need to be spreading all across the world. And it's only possible if you guys go ahead and share this video, like it and comment, and, you know, just boost the algorithm so that, you know, videos like these, it gets to more people. And someone important might end up seeing it, and they might take some actions against the things that's happening in Syria, because the prosecution of Christians is just going out of control right now. Just look at all these things that's happening right now.
As the barbaric scope of the massacre in Syria continues to expand, Syrian Christians are once again caught in the crossfire. Liana, what are you hearing from Syria?
Awful, terrible news, terrible news. Yesterday, I heard that there were 15 doctors that were murdered because they were Alawites.
15 doctors?
Supposedly supporters of Assad. Women, children, men. I've watched videos that I can never unsee again.
Oh my
I've
God.
seen hearts being carved out of bodies. I have seen duct tape being placed on men's eyes, and then they stand them on the mass graves and shoot them, and they don't die, and then they beat them after they have shot them. The dehumanization that is happening on the ground. They make them bark like dogs. They make them walk on legs and their hands, on their knees and hands. I'm a student of the Holocaust, and we read those things in the pages of history, right? And then we recently came from 10 years ago was the ISIS genocide in Iraq. But really, this is on a different scale, on another scale. Why are they killing the children? The children were not supporters of Assad.
They're killing the children, women, everybody.
Come under attack. They're terrified, absolutely terrified.
Oh, that is just demonic. There's no other way to describe it. Help us understand. So it seems like the reports are that this is mainly against the Alawites, right? The nationality, the ethnicity of the former Assad regime. But Christians are also being targeted. Can you help explain that for us?
So the Alawites are they're considered to be heretic to the Muslims, and therefore they're not protected by the jihadists, if you will. Christians are people of the book. And because they're a small minority, and because of the atrocities that Assad had committed, also last week, I believe it was Thursday, when some supporters of...
So it seems like, you know, the Christians are being caught up in like the crossfire, and they almost killed like 1,000 Christians.
Assad attacked the forces of this new regime. This regime is brutal, please don't get me wrong, but they ambushed these new forces, and this is what's transpiring right now is in retaliation of what happened in the hands of the Assad supporters. Westerner. So this massive attack that has been happening against the Alawites, it is systematic. You hear them speak. Oh, and very importantly, I must say that the fighters, you look at them, you watch these videos, the fighters are not Arabs, all of them. They're Chechens, there are Indonesians, there are Jordanians, there are Tajiks from Tajikistan. I mean, you will find there are some Americans. Apparently, there was a report that said that there are Americans even, just like they were embedded with ISIS. So this very diverse, very brutal group is committing demonic acts.
It seems like Christians are being caught up in the crossfire, and since they are like the minorities in Syria, that's the reason why they just decided that we could just go ahead and do whatever kind of crimes we can. And in the Bible, it already mentions, Jesus himself said in Matthew chapter 24 verse 9, that then they will deliver us upon to the tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. For Jesus warns his disciples that persecution and death will come because of their alliance with Jesus. And in John chapter 16 verse 2, he also mentions that they will put you out of the synagogue indeed, when whoever kills you will think that he's offering his service to God. And Jesus also says that religious and political authorities will persecute his followers. And in Matthew chapter 10 verse 21 to 22, Jesus also mentions where brother will deliver brother over death, which means that brothers are going to kill each other, and father will kill his child, and children will raise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake, but the ones who endure to the end will be saved. Where Jesus basically describes that families are going to betray each other and hated for basically following Jesus. Now, there are so many verses in the Bible. If I just keep mentioning, it's just going to be a very long video, I guess. Every single verse in the Bible has already mentioned that it's a prophecy that's going to be happening during the end time, when the moon is supposed to be turning red, and that's actually happening tomorrow. And that's the same time the Bible also mentions that during this time there will also be persecutions of all Christians that follow Jesus that are going to be ending up dead just because they follow Jesus. And because the world already hates Jesus, this also means that everybody that follows him are also going to get hated. Now, it seems like these prophecies are now officially coming true. I've also made a previous video where I basically shared all the prophecies that are coming true. Let me just play the clip where all the prophecies that are actually coming true right now. Euphrates River is completely drying up, which is also something that was already prophesied in Ezekiel's revelation. And it's not just that, we also saw deserts becoming forest, and there's also blizzard snowstorm all over the Saudi Arabia in the middle of deserts, which is something that just seems so impossible to happen. And we also saw rivers gushing out of deserts, which is also something the prophecy has stated. And the prophecy also says that water will be turning red blood color. And we are also seeing these things happen right now. And one of the most important things is that Israel has already announced that they are sacrificing the 5 red heifers, which is already revealed to Ezekiel in Revelations, where he got to see that Israel was indeed sacrificing 5 red heifers, and there will be a massive all-out scale war throughout the entire world because of this stuff. And then they're going to be building the 3rd Solomon temple, and after that the Jews believe that their Messiah is going to show up. But then in reality, according to Ezekiel, the Messiah that people have been waiting for is going to be the second coming of Christ. Now, as you can see, it is very, very clear that we have officially reached the end times, and every single prophecies that we have seen so far has now officially come true. And things right now has gone so far ahead that it's just absolutely scary, because this was one of the most scariest prophecies that was supposed to happen before the second coming of Christ, which is the persecution of all the people that follow Jesus, which means that there is going to be so much more. This is just the beginning. There's going to be so much more. And if that is happening in Syria, it's also going to be happening in so many different countries. It also happened last month in India, where thousands of Christians were persecuted, but then not many were killed, but churches were destroyed by Indian Hindus. Now, these are just the beginning. I'm pretty sure any country that has like minority of Christians are basically going to destroy the Christian community. And for what reason? Absolutely nobody knows. It just seems like the prophecy is coming true, and there's absolutely nothing that can stop this stuff. And the only thing that we can do so far is basically to pray for the people that are suffering right now. I just can't imagine how horrible it's going to feel for those people whose family are basically being dragged out of the house. And just imagine if you have a father or brother or son or daughter, they're just being dragged out of the house, beaten to death, and they're being kneeled down so that they can get executed amongst thousands of people. And there are just hundreds of bodies just thrown across in the streets. That's the kind of persecution that's currently going on, and that has just begun. And I'm pretty sure with the coming years, as we're heading to the end times, it definitely seems like these things are going to grow. And the only thing we can do so far is to endure and pray for all those people who are currently suffering. And if you guys could just do your part, because I'm doing my part in making this video, letting a lot of people know about the stuff that's going on. If you guys who believe in God could do your part by simply just dropping a like on this video, leaving whatever comments that you guys want to leave, because the algorithm gets pushed on. So you can probably leave a comment about Bible verse or teaching people about what's really going on in the Bible prophecies. It could be anything. You can could do your part by just leaving a comment, dropping a like on this video, and also if you are interested in content like these, I guess you can subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on, because I of course keep you guys updated with some of these crazy stuffs that goes on in the world. The best thing you can obviously do is share this video with as many people as possible, because it seems like people are in dire need of help. Also, take a look at this stuff, man. What's going on
right now to pray for Syria? It's a country in chaos with massacres that have happened over the last number of days. Reportedly thousands who've been killed, and many of those are believers in Christ, our brothers and sisters. So let's join in prayer right now and ask God to work in this situation to provide peace, protection, and stability for the future of Syria. God, thank you for your grace. Thank you that you hear us, dear God, that we can approach your throne to receive grace.
This is awesome,
and mercy.
man.
And I pray right
now,
there
are so many people that are supporting this stuff
across Syria, especially in the coastal plains, who are on the run, who've experienced devastation, many who've lost loved ones and seen them killed. I pray, dear God, that you would stand with them right now, this very moment, and comfort them in the Holy Spirit and through your word. Allow them to feel the prayers, dear Father, of the worldwide church who is standing with them and lifting up their names, dear Father, to ask you to work on their behalf, to give them protection, to give them safety, to give them things as simple as food and water and a roof, dear God, of protection. And that you would provide stability amongst the fighting, amongst all these different rebel groups, and amongst all of these struggles and trials, dear Father, for power. We pray that you would provide a way, a pathway for peace for both Christians and Alawites and Sunnis and others to live, and Druze, and the courage to live in peace together in this region. Dear God, we know that you're capable of that.
Shit, man, I can't really imagine living in this place.
I pray specifically again, dear God, for the church, that you would hold them strong, that you would give them protection, that you would let them know they're not alone, that you would just quicken them even now, dear God, with courage and strength and resilience to persevere through this.
That is true.
We ask all this in your holy and precious name, Jesus.
John 15:18 through 20. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you're not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you.
So keep your head up. Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming back. No, don't you